This episode of the Rogue Deck Builder is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source for games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source for Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, it's Kevin with Gathering Magic and Roguedeckbuilder.com here with another episode of the Rogue Deck Builder. Now, this one isn't going to be as competitive as my most recent Rogue Deck Builders. This is actually a list, an idea submitted by a fan on Reddit. Again, I absolutely love these submissions. So sometimes I don't have enough time to comment or message back after you send me a list, but I do look at the majority of the lists that are sent to me via either Facebook or email or through Reddit. So if I don't respond back, nothing personal. I get a ton of submissions per day, and I just don't have the time to respond back to all of them. But anyway, this one was a very interesting list. This one is by Emrakul. He submitted an idea with Blast of Genius with our friend Worldspine Wurm. Now, looking over his list, he has a lot of cards that I just don't want to include in this deck, as we're going to actually try to make the Blast of Genius and Worldspine combo work to its full potential. So we're going to actually include 4 of each of those copies. So if that's the case, we're going to go into more of a ramp strategy than what we see here. But I mean, interesting little list. Some combinations that I see right off the bat that I think would go great in this list here is Mercurial Chemistry actually looks really good with Prophet of Krufix and Kiora's Follower. So maybe in the future I'll have to mess around with that idea, go kind of a Prophet strategy with Mercurial Chemist, and of course like cards like the Satyr that untaps, Voyaging Satyr that untaps a land, and the Kiora's Follower, of course, which untaps a permanent, and then we can go with the ramp strategy that way with like the Mercurial Chemister combination. I see some very, very huge synergies with those cards. Anywho, so what we're going to take from this list right here, of course, is the unexpected results, the Worldspine Wurm, and the Blast of Genius, and try to make a deck. And I do like the Xenagos, at least as a way to generate mana, so I have it in the sideboard. Anyway, without further ado, we'll just look at that list here. So I've got it pulled up here on MTGO. We're going to run 24 lands. I think that is the right number. And yesterday I did have more mana ramp. I played this a ton last night at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was so hilariously fun. In fact, I started playing this because I accidentally queued this in an 8-man. I was going to queue actually my Jund Dredge deck that I've been playing a lot in an 8-man, try to grind out some qualifier points, and accidentally queued this list in, because it's right above the Jund list at the time, and little misclick there, and I ended up going against Esper Control first round and just completely smashed Esper Control, as I just kept... I mean, he didn't have a lot of counter spells right off the bat, and a lot of removal in Esper Control that was just plain useless, and I got the unexpected results into Worldspine Wurm, which was too much to handle in one game, and the next game I got 2 Blast of Geniuses right in a row with Worldspine Wurm. And then I lost to a Bank Control in match number 2, but it was 2-1. I mean 1-2, and I barely lost the second and third matches, and I of course won the first one, and then he brought in a ton of like counter spells like Gainsay and Dissolves and whatnot, and that kind of shut this deck down. But anyway, it was hilariously fun. I wrecked Mono Black all night with this list, as Mono Black seems to struggle, as you just ignore them and keep... Like, a lot of their stuff is just dead removal, and eventually you just ramp up to, crazy Blast of Genius, Worldspine Wurm combinations. So anyway, that is the combination. We go Blast of Genius, and then you discard a Worldspine Wurm. That's 11 damage. And there's just so much card draw in this deck, and we're even running Epic Experiment. And I messed around with this. It used to be 4 copies, but I've added some more Kioras. In fact, I didn't even use Kioras yesterday. So Kiora is kind of an addition that I don't know how well is going to work, but I'm expecting the extra ramp is going to work splendid. And eventually these Epic Experiments, what you want to do is you want to hit Epic Experiment for 8 mana, so X is equal to 6, so you can hit the Blast of Genius, and a lot of times you hit 2 of them. And since Worldspine Wurm always shuffles in, you have a bunch of Worldspine Wurms and eventually hit them. And so basically the whole deck is you want to hit 2 Blast of Genius into Worldspine Wurms, but there's other ways to actually kill your opponent. And maybe we actually need to find another way to kill opponent, but that's been the way that I've been doing, is with Blast of Genius, and you'd be surprised at how efficient this deck has been working. So again, we might need to go like a Stormbreath Dragon, or what's the other dragon? The 4/4 haster out of Ravnica. Blue red as it makes your sorceries cast for free as well. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to look at that. But maybe now with Cures in here, Cures is another win con. But we're gonna usually use Kiora as a way to just ramp. So we're gonna be using her -1 ability usually when she comes right out. So she's kind of like another urban evolution. They either have to find some removal immediately for her, or we're going to hopefully get 2 cards and two lands into play at least. Well, we'll do the -1, then start plussing her, and then plus minus, plus minus, plus minus to try to find the combination. So I don't know if I just got lucky last night, but it was winning like crazy. And if that's the case, then we'll have to make some adjustments with this deck to try to find another win condition. In the sideboard, we have Primeval Bounty, which was working pretty well when I had more of the mana ramp cards. There is a couple other mana ramp. You can use the red-green one that does a damage, but only adds for green. And a lot of times you want to use these Carrotids and Mana West slivers to actually find like your blue and red sources. Because I am using so many basic forests, and then just all the rest of the lands that actually add green. Because we want to hit that first turn green. We don't want to be cut out of green. Everything in our entire deck takes green except for Epic Experiment and Blast of Genius. We have one of Borborygmos enraged in here. He's amazing when I've hit him with unexpected results. I've won games right off the bat with that. He's also another great target for Blast of Genius. Now, of course, the most casting cost in the format right now with Blast of Genius is Enter the Infinite. And Enter the Infinite does have some combination with Borborygmos, but unfortunately, if you're unexpected resulting into a Enter the Infinite, you're probably going to lose, as you can put maybe Worldspine Wurm back on top, but then what are you going to do with it after that? I mean, you draw your entire hand, you keep Blast of Genius plus Worldspine Wurm, so maybe Enter the Infinite would be decent in this deck. I'm just not sure. I see us losing to Enter the Infinite a lot more likely than actually winning with Enter the Infinite, as then we yeah, I mean, maybe if we do that, we can go Psychic Spiral, and you know what? We're gonna try and Enter the Infinite, and we're gonna adjust. I'm gonna put, because then with see if I even have one here, because now I'm thinking about it. That's a win con with Psychic Spiral as well. You can put your entire deck and then Psychic Spiral it back up. So yeah, let's actually look at that. Maybe I'll have to go purchase one here. Jeez. Oh yeah, I'll enter the Infinite. Okay, so we have 2 copies. I'm going to go ahead and put one in the sideboard. We'll get rid of a Rift here, a Cyclonic Rift, and that way we have an Enter the Infinite. Again, these can be pitched. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 12. So it's actually one more than Worldspine Wurm. These can actually be pitched to the Blast of Genius. And I guess we just go ahead and mainboard it here. We need to mainboard both the combos. So, I mean, what would I take out? Maybe an Epic Experiment sideboard. And do we need a Psychic? Yeah, we would need a Psychic Spiral, because that would be the way that we would actually shuffle everything from our graveyard after we discarded back into our library. So the other card would maybe, I want to keep the one of Borborygmos, and I want to keep the Epic Experiments because they worked very well. Maybe just a Kiora. We'll throw a Kiora in the sideboard and bring it in, and we'll just mess with this combo to see how well it works. Anyway, this is a hilariously fun deck. I had so much fun. Maybe it was because it was 2 and 3 in the morning, and everything at that time at night is pretty giddy, but anyway, and it was St. Patrick's Day, so maybe I was just working off the Irish luck, but we'll see how well this deck works. And it's decks like these that, you know, get the brain going, and you start to see more connections, and eventually this could actually turn into like a decent deck. But again, it works very well in the slower format right now. The matchups that I was facing a lot of Bant lists last night, a lot of Junk and Bant lists. The kind of Sylvan Carotid decks were everywhere last night, and they were a little bit slower than usual, because I think that the decks are moving over into more of a grinding way to deal with mono black. And the one match that I did lose horribly bad to was mono blue. So hopefully we can avoid the mono blue matchup, as I don't have any sideboard at all for mono blue, and mono blue just overruns me on turn number 4 as I'm not trying to interact with them. And you'd actually be surprised about how bad Judge's Familiar actually messes up this deck, because it sets you back an entire turn with like your unexpected results, your urban evolutions, and your blast of geniuses. So anyway, that's a little bit of overview with the deck. We'll try some games out. I hope you enjoy this, because that's exactly what this series is going to be about. Is that just, again, this is going to be a nice little fun deck that you can take to F&M. I'm not expecting this to make waves and be this amazing tier 1 deck as maybe my expectations with the Jund Dredge deck, which I am still, if you haven't seen that video series, it was done for last week. Go ahead and check that out. I'm still under the impression that is an amazing deck. Of course, it can be shut down with cards like Crypt Incursion, and I'm seeing Scavenging Oozes everywhere. But last night with Jund Dredge, I was able to actually beat out three Scavenging Oozes and still win, still fill up my graveyard and win against an RG Monsters that was running at least three main boarded Scavenging Oozes. So the deck can actually fight through hate. I guess Crypt Incursion would be the absolute worst card for the Jund Dredge list. But anyway, that's enough about that deck. I brought it up just to say that, I am going to try to make highly competitive decks on the Rogue Deck Builder, but this one is just going to be a breather. It's going to be something that puts enjoyment back into the game of Magic, and something you can run at your local F&M and, turn some heads. Anyway, this has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder and GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.